My name is Lisa J. Lance. I'm 30 years old and I'm an architect. I design buildings for clients who appreciate clean lines, smart space, and the quiet satisfaction of something that works exactly the way it's supposed to. The irony is that while I've spent my career designing structures that make sense, the family I grew up in never followed anything resembling logic. I own a 3-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood just outside the city. I paid for it myself. No cosigners, no parental loans, just my salary and 5 years of living like a broke college student while my friends spent weekends at music festivals and beach trips, ramen dinners, secondhand furniture, long nights finishing projects that nobody would ever notice except the clients paying for them. That house is my sanctuary, my achievement, proof that being the forgotten child in your family can actually work in your favor if you channel the neglect into productivity and stubborn independence. So when my dad sent a text saying, "Family dinner tonight, 6 p.m., don't be late," I immediately knew something was wrong. My dad doesn't text. He calls, usually at the worst possible time, like in the middle of a client meeting, then leaves voicemails that sound like hostage negotiations. But a text with punctuation? That meant this wasn't casual. It meant someone had already made a decision. The restaurant was Maroni's, a dimly lit Italian place where every major family announcement in our lives had happened. Birthdays, engagements, disasters disguised as celebrations. Mom was already crying when I walked in. That was how I knew this was serious. Dad had his "I've already decided" expression, the one he wears when he's about to announce something completely unreasonable, but expects everyone to agree anyway. And there was my older sister, Karen. Karen sat at the table beside her husband, Mark, and their 2 kids. Mark looked uncomfortable. Karen looked defensive. The kids looked like they would rather be anywhere else on earth. Honestly, I could relate. "Lisa, you're here," Mom said, dabbing her eyes with a napkin. "Got the text," I said, sliding into the seat across from Karen. "What's the emergency?" Dad cleared his throat. "No emergency, just family business." Family business. That phrase had always been code for something terrible. Family business was how Karen convinced our parents to loan her $5,000 for a business opportunity that turned out to be a timeshare presentation. Family business was the boat my parents bought even though nobody knew how to operate it. Family business was the Thanksgiving where Mom deep-fried a turkey in the garage and gave all of us food poisoning. I leaned back in my chair. "Okay, what's the business?" Dad folded his hands together like a lawyer presenting a case. "Karen and Mark are going through a difficult financial situation." I looked at Karen. She was studying her bread plate, like it might reveal the meaning of life. "They're being evicted," Dad continued. I nodded slowly. "Sorry to hear that." And I meant it. Eviction is awful. But sympathy and responsibility are 2 very different things. "So," Dad continued, smiling like he'd solved a major crisis, "your mother and I discussed possible solutions." Red flag. Whenever my parents discussed solutions, it meant the solution already involved me. "And we've decided," he said proudly, "that Karen and her family will move in with you." I blinked. Then I looked around the table. Mom was nodding enthusiastically. Karen still wouldn't meet my eyes. Mark looked mortified. The kids were playing games on their tablets. "I'm sorry," I said slowly. "What?" "Your house has 3 bedrooms," Dad explained, like he was presenting a perfectly logical argument. "You're single. They need space. It's perfect." "Perfect. Right. Like pineapple on pizza." "That's not happening," I said calmly. Mom leaned forward. "It's temporary." "How temporary?" Silence. "Well," Mom said carefully, "that depends on Karen finding a job." Karen cleared her throat. "The job market is tough right now." "So let me get this straight," I said. "You've been unemployed for 3 months, you're being evicted, and the plan is for 4 people to move into my house indefinitely." "You have the space," Dad repeated. "I have the space because I bought a 3-bedroom house for 1 person." "Family helps family," he said. There it was. The magic phrase. Family helps family. Usually used right before asking me to fix one of Karen's problems. "I'm not doing this." "It's already decided," Dad said. "By who?" "By us." "You told them they could move into my house without asking me." "We're asking now." "No," I said. "You're informing me." Mom tried the emotional angle. "The kids need stability." I glanced at them. They were innocent in this. But so was I. "I'm not a monster," I said. "But I'm also not enabling this pattern anymore." Karen looked up sharply. "What pattern?" "The pattern where you make bad decisions and Mom and Dad fix them." "That's not fair." "You're 34, I said. You've been unemployed 5 times in 6 years. Dad slammed his hand lightly on the table. "That's enough." But I wasn't finished. "Every time something goes wrong," I said, "someone else pays for it." Karen looked furious. Mom looked horrified. Dad looked tired. "You're their aunt," Mom said softly. "Don't you want to help?" I stood up. "You're right." Mom's face lit up. "So you'll do it?" "No, but I do have security cameras." The table went silent. Karen's face drained of color. "Lisa," she whispered. "Don't." I pulled out my phone and opened the security app. "Want to see something interesting?" Karen stood up. "Don't show them." "What?" I said. "How you broke into my house." Amanda gasped. "Karen, what?" I hit play. The video filled the screen. April 23rd, 3:47 p.m. Karen standing outside my front door, looking around nervously, then pulling something from her pocket, a lockpick set. And just like that, the entire dinner exploded. The video kept playing on my phone, and the restaurant table went silent in the way rooms go silent when something ugly finally becomes undeniable. Karen stood frozen beside her chair, pale, her mouth opening and closing like she had forgotten how to breathe. My mom's hand flew to her mouth. Dad looked like someone had just unplugged his brain mid-sentence. Mark stared at his wife like he was seeing a stranger sitting across from him. On the screen, Karen worked the lock for about 2 minutes. Then the door clicked open. She stepped inside my house like she belonged there. Calm, casual, confident, like it wasn't the first time. "Karen," Mark said slowly, his voice shaking. "Tell me that's not what it looks like." Karen didn't answer. I tapped the screen and fast-forwarded the video. The next clip showed her walking straight into my office. No hesitation, no searching. She knew exactly where everything was. On the table, my mom whispered, "Oh my God." The footage showed Karen opening drawers, pulling out my laptop, unplugging my external hard drives, packing up my camera equipment piece by piece. $8,000 worth of equipment. All gone in 10 minutes. "You broke into Lisa's house?" Mark said, his voice louder now. Karen swallowed. "I can explain." I kept scrolling. "Let's hear it," I said. Another clip loaded. Different date, different location, a pawn shop. The camera angle was from the security feed I had requested after tracking down my missing gear. Karen stood at the counter, arguing with the clerk about the price of my camera lenses, like she was selling old furniture at a garage sale. The whole table stared at the screen. Mom started crying harder. Dad's attorney brain finally rebooted. I could see it in his eyes as the legal implications caught up with him. Karen collapsed back into her chair. "I was going to return it," she muttered. "Were you?" I said. I swiped to the next video. March 15th. Karen walking through my garage. February 3rd. Karen opening my storage cabinet. January 7th. Karen stealing mail from my porch. The table went quiet again, but this time it felt heavier. Like the moment at a funeral when the last denial disappears. "I installed the cameras in January," I said calmly. "After things started going missing, it took me 3 months to confirm it was you." Karen covered her face with her hands. "I needed money," she whispered. "So you committed burglary?" "For the kids," she snapped suddenly, desperate. "For rent!" Mark stood up so quickly his chair scraped across the floor. "You robbed your sister," he said. "You robbed her for months." Mom grabbed my arm across the table. "Lisa, please," she begged. "Don't make this worse." "Worse?" I said. "This is $8,000 of theft." I opened a spreadsheet on my phone. Laptop, $2,000. Camera equipment, $4,000. Hard drives, $800. Tools and miscellaneous items, $1,500. Total, $8,300. Plus the cost of installing the security system, I added. Dad rubbed his temples. "This needs to stay in the family." I laughed. "This is not a family issue. This is a crime." Karen looked up at me with red eyes. "Please don't call the police." Mom squeezed my arm harder. "We can fix this," she said. "How?" "We'll pay you back." "With what money?" I asked. Karen had no job. Mark's salary barely covered rent even before the eviction. Silence answered my question. I looked around the table one last time. My parents looked terrified. Mark looked furious. Karen looked broken. I felt bad for the kids. But I felt worse for the person who had spent 5 years building a life that someone else casually dismantled. "You have 24 hours, I said quietly. Everyone looked at me. "Karen turns herself in," I continued, "or I file charges." Mom gasped. "You can't be serious." "I'm very serious." Karen stared at the table. Lisa, please." I stood up. "You have until tomorrow at 6. Then I grabbed my jacket and walked out of the restaurant. The night air felt colder than it should have. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel for a long moment, trying not to scream. My phone buzzed almost immediately. Karen. Then Mom. Then Dad. Then Mark. Then Karen again. The messages came faster than I could read them. Please don't do this. Think of the children. We can fix this privately. I'm begging you. I turned off my phone. I drove home to my 3-bedroom house. The house Karen had broken into. The house my parents thought she should move into. I unlocked the door, walked inside, made tea, and sat on the couch. The security cameras were still recording. I opened my laptop and began organizing everything. Videos by date, inventory lists, receipts from the pawn shop, a spreadsheet detailing every stolen item. If Karen didn't turn herself in, I was ready. 24 hours is a long time when you're waiting to see what your family values more, truth or loyalty. The deadline came at exactly 6 p.m. the next day. At 6:01, my doorbell rang. I checked the camera feed. Dad was standing outside, alone. I opened the door. "Where's Karen?" I asked. He sighed. "She's at home with your mother." So she didn't turn herself in. Dad stepped inside like the house still belonged to him. "Lisa, be reasonable." I was reasonable, I said, for 24 hours. He paced the living room like he was building a courtroom argument. Karen made a mistake. Several mistakes over 4 months. She was desperate. So she committed burglary. "You're going to ruin her life over this." I laughed. She ruined her own life. "She's your sister." "She's a thief." Family helps family. There it was again. The phrase that magically erased consequences. "You know what's funny?" I said. "When I needed help with my down payment 4 years ago, you told me adults should stand on their own feet. That was different." "How?" "You were always more capable." I stared at him. "So I get punished for being competent?" Dad didn't answer. "Your 2 minutes are up," I said. "Leave." His voice cracked slightly. "Lisa, please. Get out of my house." He walked toward the door slowly. "You're making a terrible mistake." "Maybe. But it's mine." After he left, I picked up my phone. I dialed the police non-emergency number. "Hi," I said calmly when the dispatcher answered. "I'd like to report a burglary." The officer who took my report was named Rodriguez. Mid-40s, tired eyes, practical voice, the kind of person who had clearly seen every possible variation of human stupidity and still managed to sound mildly surprised when a new one showed up. She sat across from me at my dining table while I walked her through everything. "So let me get this straight," she said, reviewing the files on her tablet. "Your older sister broke into your house multiple times. You have video evidence. You have pawn shop footage. You have receipts. And your family wanted you to let her move in here." I nodded. "With her husband and 2 kids. Rodriguez looked up at me. I've been doing this 17 years, she said. "That is a new level of audacity. My family likes to innovate." That almost got a smile out of her. She watched the clip of Karen picking the lock, watched her move through my office, watched her carry out my laptop bag like she was running an errand for herself. Then she looked at the spreadsheet I had prepared. "This is very organized." "I'm an architect," I said. "If we're not organized, buildings fall down." She nodded slowly. "Total value is $8,300, plus the stuff I had to repurchase. You bought back some of your own stolen items." It was faster. "No offense," she said. "None taken." She set down the tablet. "I have to ask, are you sure you want to press charges? It's going to get ugly." I looked around my living room. The house was quiet, clean, safe again, at least on the surface, but every corner of it still carried the aftertaste of violation. "It's already ugly," I said. Rodriguez held my gaze for a second, then nodded once. "Fair enough." She left with copies of everything. 3 days later, Karen was arrested at my parents' house. I didn't witness it. I was at work reviewing revised plans for a commercial build-out when my phone buzzed with a text message from Karen. It was a photo, Karen in handcuffs on my parents' front lawn. Her hair was a mess. Her eyes were swollen. My mother stood blurred in the background like some tragic figure in a low-budget crime drama. The text beneath the photo read, "Happy now?" I stared at it for a long moment. Then my assistant, Mallory, looked over from her desk. "You okay?" I turned the screen toward her. "My sister just got arrested for robbing me and apparently wants to know if I'm happy about it." Mallory blinked. "Wow. Yeah. Are you happy?" I considered that. "Not happy," I said, "but I do feel something." Satisfaction? Closer. Relief? Warmer, because that was the truth. Not joy, not revenge. Just relief that for once, someone in my family had done something wrong and I was not the one being expected to absorb the damage quietly. My mother called half an hour later. I answered because I wanted to hear exactly what she would say. "They arrested her in front of the neighbors," she cried. "She committed felonies in front of my security cameras." How could you do this to us?" "I didn't do anything to you," I said. "I reported a crime." "She's your sister." "She's also a burglar." Mom made this wounded sound in the back of her throat, like grief and rage were fighting for space. You've humiliated this family. No, I said. Karen did that when she started pawning my stuff. She hung up on me. Dad called an hour later. He had switched into lawyer mode. Cool voice, careful pacing, the emotional version of a press suit. We're posting bail, he said. Good for you. The family is very disappointed in you. I leaned back in my office chair. Which part of the family? The part that forgot my birthday 3 years in a row, or the part that wanted me to house my burglar? You're being vindictive. No, I'm being consistent. You could have handled this privately. I did. I gave Karen 24 hours to handle it privately. She didn't. This will destroy her chances of employment. She didn't have employment, Dad. That's part of how we got here. His silence told me he knew I was right and hated it. When did you become so cold? He asked finally. I looked out through the glass wall of my office at a half-finished structure rising cleanly against the afternoon sky. Around the time my sister broke into my house and my parents told me to get over it. Then I ended the call. That night, Mark called. I almost didn't answer, but I did. His voice sounded like someone who had not slept in days. I didn't know, he said immediately. I know. No, I really didn't. Lisa, I swear to you, I had no idea she was doing any of that. I believe you. There was a long pause. I took the kids to my parents' place, he said. I couldn't keep them there after the arrest. Good. I talked to a lawyer. I sat up a little straighter. For divorce? Yes. I closed my eyes for a second. I'm sorry. Don't be, he said. And there was a bitterness under the exhaustion now. She lied to me for months. She stole from you while telling me we were barely making rent because of bad luck. That's not bad luck. No. That's character. We were quiet for a moment. Then he said something I wasn't expecting. The kids keep asking about you. My chest tightened a little. They do? They like you. They always have. I smiled despite myself. I like them too. Would it be weird if they still saw you sometimes? That question landed softer than everything else had. Because beneath the police report and the family war and the legal mess were two kids who had done absolutely nothing wrong. No, I said, that wouldn't be weird. Thanks. He sounded like he might cry, but didn't. After we hung up, I sat alone in my kitchen with a glass of water I forgot to drink. Then my phone buzzed again. This time it was an email from the prosecutor's office. Karen had taken a plea deal faster than I expected. Guilty plea. 18 months probation. 500 hours of community service. Full restitution of $8,300 plus court costs, probation fees, administrative fees. By the time it was done, the number sat closer to $12,000. I read it twice. Karen had sold my camera gear for less than $1,000. Now it was going to cost her everything. I forwarded the email to my parents with no message attached. Just facts. Mom called within 2 minutes. Are you satisfied now? I stared at the refrigerator door while she cried into the phone. I'm not satisfied or unsatisfied, I said. I'm informed. She has a criminal record now. She committed crimes. You've ruined her life. I laughed once, short and sharp. No, Mom, Karen ruined her life. I just refuse to be collateral damage. Family forgives. Family also doesn't pick locks and sell your laptop. Her breathing turned ragged. I don't even know who you are anymore. That one should have hurt. Instead, it felt almost peaceful. I'm the daughter whose house got broken into, I said. The one you wanted to let the thief move in with. I'm exactly who I've always been. You're just finally paying attention. She sobbed harder. We're done, she said. I waited. Do you hear me? We're done. Don't call us. Don't come by. You are not welcome anymore. I leaned against the counter and let the words settle. Not because they shocked me, because they didn't. The condition had finally been spoken out loud. Love in my family was always tied to compliance. Once I stopped complying, I stopped belonging. Okay, I said. There was silence on the other end. Then she whispered, okay? Yes. That seemed to unsettle her more than if I had begged. Goodbye, Mom. I ended the call, and then I waited to feel devastated. Regret. Grief. Guilt. Something. But what came instead was relief. Not the kind that feels triumphant. The kind that feels like putting down a box you didn't realize you'd been carrying your whole life. That evening, my cousin Sarah texted me. Heard about Karen. Holy hell. I smiled for the first time all day. Yeah. A moment later, she replied, Your mom's telling everyone you're a monster. I typed back. Cool. What's everyone else saying? Her answer came almost instantly. Half think you're cruel. Half think you're a legend. I looked around my quiet kitchen, my locked doors, my clean counters, my untouched peace. I'll take those odds, I wrote. Sarah sent back one final message. For what it's worth, I'm on Team Legend. I set my phone down and laughed softly into the silence. because maybe that was the strangest part of all. My family was burning down around me, and for the first time in years, I could breathe. The family split happened faster than I expected. Within a week, it felt like someone had taken a chainsaw to the family tree and left two jagged halves pointing at each other. Half of the relatives stopped speaking to me entirely. No explanation, no confrontation, just quiet disappearance. The other half suddenly developed strong opinions about forgiveness and unity and felt the need to share them publicly. My Aunt Carol posted a Bible verse about forgiveness on my social media page. I deleted it. She posted another one. I blocked her. Uncle Mike sent a long text explaining that family was forever and that people should move forward from mistakes. I replied, "So is burglary on a criminal record." He stopped texting. My cousin David called me a snitch in the family group chat. I left the group chat. Best decision I'd made all year. A few minutes later, Sarah texted me. She had started a new group chat. Just the two of us. She named it Reasonable People. Population 2. Mom's side of the family is losing their minds, she wrote. How bad? I asked. Thanksgiving is going to be a war zone. Good thing I'm not going. Legend status confirmed. While the family was arguing about morality and loyalty, Karen's life was collapsing in real time. Amanda filed for divorce 2 weeks after the arrest. Financial dishonesty. Criminal activity. Complete breakdown of trust. The lawyer didn't waste time. Karen was advised to accept Amanda's custody terms immediately. Primary custody to Amanda. Supervised visitation for Karen every other weekend. Karen did not take it well. Sarah sent me screenshots of Karen's social media posts. They were dramatic. Vague accusations about betrayal and fake family. Posts about loyalty and how people only love you when things are easy. Sarah texted beneath one of the screenshots. Is she talking about you or Amanda? I replied. Yes. The post got worse for a while. Then suddenly her entire account disappeared. At first, I thought she deleted it out of embarrassment. A week later, I learned the real reason. I was at work reviewing drawings when my phone rang. The number was unfamiliar, but local. I answered. Hello? Lisa? It was Amanda. Her voice sounded exhausted. Hey, I said, everything okay? Not really. My stomach tightened. What happened? Karen is missing. I sat up straight. Missing how? She didn't show up for her supervised visitation yesterday. No calls, no texts. Did you check with my parents? I did. Your mom said she hasn't seen her in 3 days. Did you call the police? I filed a missing person report this morning. She hesitated. Lisa, I'm worried she might do something stupid. The guilt tried to creep in. I shut it down immediately. That's not on you, I said. I know, Amanda said quietly. I just thought maybe she tried to come to your house. I opened the security camera app on my phone. I scrolled through the footage from the past week. Delivery drivers, neighbors walking dogs, a raccoon attempting to open my trash bin. No Karen. She hasn't been here, I said. Amanda exhaled. Okay, thank you for checking. If she contacts me, I'll tell you immediately. Thank you. Karen turned up 2 days later. Not injured, not kidnapped, just drunk. She had checked into a cheap motel 3 towns away and spent most of the bail money on whiskey. The police found her after Amanda's missing person report triggered a welfare check. My mom called me after they found her. Her voice sounded raw from crying. Are you happy now? She got drunk in a motel, I said. That's not my doing. She was devastated, Mom said. She's avoiding responsibility, I replied. You did this to her. No, I said calmly. She did this to herself. Mom hung up again. 3 weeks passed. Life started returning to normal. Then Dad called. I almost didn't answer. Curiosity won. Lisa, he said, we need to talk. What about? And not over the phone. Why not? Can you come to the house? The house I'm not welcome in? Silence. Your mother was upset, he said carefully. She didn't mean it. She meant it. Please. Against my better judgment, I went. The house looked exactly the same. Same neat lawn. Same beige siding. Same illusion of stability. Mom answered the door. Her eyes were red. She had clearly been crying again. Lisa, she said softly. Dad sat at the kitchen table surrounded by paperwork. Loan statements. Bank notices. Credit documents. I sat down slowly. What's going on? Dad slid a paper toward me. We took out a loan 2 years ago. I read the document. Home equity loan. $40,000. For what? I asked. Dad hesitated. Karen had gambling debts. My stomach dropped. $20,000, he continued. We paid them off. Then she needed help with a business. What business? He didn't answer. So there was no business, I said. Mom started crying again. Dad nodded slightly. So you gave Karen $40,000, I said slowly. And now you can't pay it back. We've been making payments, Dad said. but the bail money wiped out our savings. How much was bail? $15,000. I did the math instantly. So you're $55,000 in debt because of Karen. Mom looked up. We're behind 3 months on payments. And the bank is threatening foreclosure. I leaned back in the chair. And you want me to bail you out? We're not asking for a handout, Dad said. What are you asking for? Mom spoke through tears. A loan. With what income are you repaying that loan? Silence. You're both retired. We'll figure something out, she said weakly. No, I said. You won't. Dad's shoulders slumped. So you won't help? No. Mom looked at me like I had just burned the house down. Not even a little? Not even $1. She stood up suddenly. Then get out. I grabbed my keys. Gladly. As I walked to the door, she shouted after me. We're losing our house. I stopped. You should have thought about that before giving Karen $40,000. Then I walked out. When I reached my car, my hands were shaking. Not from guilt, from anger. The cycle had repeated exactly the way it always had. Karen created the disaster. And somehow it was still my responsibility to fix it. But this time I had chosen something different. Boundaries. Sarah was already waiting at the coffee shop when I arrived. She had 2 cups on the table and a brownie we were apparently expected to share. She studied my face as I sat down. That bad? They asked for money, I said. How much? $40,000 loan for Karen's gambling debts plus $15,000 bail. Sarah blinked slowly. So they're $55,000 in debt. Yep. And they expected you to fix it. Also, yep. She raised her coffee. To boundaries. To boundaries, I said, clinking cups with her. Sarah leaned back in her chair. You know they're going to make you the villain. They already have. And it's going to get worse. Let it. And it did. Within days, the family gossip network exploded. My mom told everyone that I had refused to help them save their home. She left out the part where the debt existed because of Karen's gambling and fake business schemes. Half the relatives believed her immediately. Apparently, refusing to fund someone else's bad decisions qualifies as cruelty in some family circles. The other half started asking questions. Sarah kept me updated on the chaos. Mom confronted your mom at church, she texted one afternoon. What happened? She asked why you should pay for Karen's gambling debts. I smiled. And? Your mom tried to deny it. And? Mom pulled out the math. I laughed out loud. Your mom is a hero. Standing ovation from the reasonable people, Sarah replied. 2 months after the money conversation, my parents sold their house. They had no other choice. The loan payments had become impossible to keep up with. They downsized to a small 2-bedroom apartment across town, and Karen moved in with them. Of course she did. 3 adults, 2 bedrooms, Karen sleeping on the couch. No job, no income, no plans. Sarah described the situation perfectly during one of our calls. It's a disaster. What's Karen doing all day? Video games. Seriously? Apparently she's exploring new career opportunities. Meaning, she's not doing anything. Meanwhile, Amanda moved forward with the divorce. The custody hearings were quick. Karen's criminal record and unstable living situation didn't exactly help her case. Amanda received primary custody. Karen was granted supervised visitation for a while. Then things got worse. Karen missed 2 scheduled visits. Then 3. Finally, the court gave her a choice. Pay the child support she owed, or terminate parental rights. She chose termination. When Amanda told me, I sat in silence for a long moment. Jesus, I said finally. Yeah, Amanda replied quietly. So legally, she's no longer their parent. Correct. Do the kids know? Not yet. She paused before adding something else. They ask about you sometimes. That caught me off guard. About me? You're the only stable adult they remember from that side of the family. That was both flattering and deeply depressing. They want to see you, she said. If that's okay. Of course it's okay. We scheduled lunch that Saturday. Amanda arrived with the kids right on time. They looked older somehow, more relaxed, like the chaos had finally moved out of their lives. We ordered pizza. The kids talked about school and friends and their new house. Amanda mentioned she had started dating someone new. His name is Derek, she said. He's an accountant. That sounds incredibly stable. That's exactly the point. Halfway through lunch, the younger one looked at me. Uncle Lisa? Yeah? Why don't we see Mommy anymore? Amanda tensed. I took a breath. Sometimes adults make choices that hurt people, I said carefully. Your mom made some choices that had consequences. Did she hurt you? Yes. Are you still mad? I thought about that. No, I said. I'm just done being mad. The kid nodded like that made perfect sense. Kids understand things adults complicate. After lunch, Amanda pulled me aside while the kids chased each other in the yard. Thank you, she said. For what? For being honest with them. They deserve honesty. They've had enough lies. She hesitated. Your parents ask about you sometimes. What do they say? They miss you. Do they say they were wrong? No. Then they don't miss me enough. Amanda nodded sadly. That's fair. After they left, I sat on the porch watching the sunset. The neighborhood was quiet, peaceful, exactly the way I had always wanted my life to feel. No shouting. No family emergencies. No phone calls demanding things I didn't want to give. Just quiet. My quiet. 6 months later, my life looked almost normal again. Work was going well. My projects were growing bigger. I started dating occasionally. Nothing serious yet. Just dinners, conversations, normal adult life. Meanwhile, Karen's life continued its slow-motion collapse. She was still living with my parents, still unemployed, still refusing to take responsibility for anything. I heard most of it through Sarah. Your parents are exhausted, she said one evening. Karen won't even help with groceries. Shocking. They're miserable. They created this. You're not wrong. For the first time since everything started, I realized something important. I didn't feel responsible anymore. Not for Karen. Not for my parents. Not for the family drama. They had made their choices. And I had made mine. Peace was surprisingly quiet. And surprisingly permanent. 6 months after the house was sold, life settled into something I hadn't experienced in years. Quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel lonely. The kind that feels earned. I woke up in my house every morning, knowing exactly who had access to my space and who didn't. The security cameras watched the driveway and front door like silent witnesses, recording nothing more dramatic than delivery drivers and the occasional raccoon investigating my trash can. I named the raccoon Kevin Jr. Sarah thought that was hysterical. My parents and I hadn't spoken since the day they asked me for money. I assumed they were telling the same story to anyone who would listen, that their daughter had abandoned them when they needed help the most. Maybe they believed it themselves. I didn't bother correcting the narrative. Then one Tuesday afternoon, my phone rang. The caller ID surprised me. Dad. I almost ignored it. Curiosity won. Hello? Lisa. His voice sounded different. Not angry. Not defensive. Just tired. I'm not calling to argue, he said. Good. There was a pause on the line. I just wanted you to know something. I waited. Your mother and I are in counseling. That wasn't what I expected. Both kinds, he continued. Financial counseling and regular counseling. I leaned back in my chair. What changed? Reality, he said quietly. We're learning a lot about how badly we handled things, about how we enabled Karen, about how we ignored you. The words sat between us for a moment. You were right, he said. That sentence might have been the most shocking thing I had ever heard from my father. Karen still lives with us, he continued. She doesn't have a job yet, but last week we told her she has 30 days to find one or she's out. I blinked. That must have been hard. It was. But the counselor says boundaries are necessary. I almost laughed. Apparently you figured that out years before we did. I didn't respond. Dad sighed softly. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know we're not there yet. I just wanted you to know we're trying. When the call ended, I sat there staring at my phone for a long time. Not because I was overwhelmed with emotion, because it felt strange hearing responsibility finally land where it belonged. A month later, Sarah texted me. Karen moved out. Where? Studio apartment. And? She got a job at Home Depot. Good. You're not going to gloat? I smiled at the screen. No. Why? I'm not invested in her failure anymore. Sarah replied with a single message. Character growth. Or exhaustion, I typed back. 2 months later, something unexpected happened. I ran into my mom at the grocery store. We both froze in the produce section. It felt like the opening scene of a Western movie. 2 people staring at each other across a row of apples. She looked older, smaller somehow. The kind of tired that doesn't come from one bad week, but from years of mistakes finally catching up. Lisa, she said quietly. Mom! Silence stretched between us. You look well, she said. Thanks. You too. It was a polite lie. How's the house? She asked. Still standing. No break-ins lately. She flinched. I deserve that. Yeah. Another silence. Then she asked the question I had been expecting eventually. Do you think we could talk sometime? I thought about it carefully. Not from anger. From honesty. Maybe, I said. Eventually. But not yet. She nodded slowly. That's fair. Before we parted, I asked one thing. Is Karen really working? She is, Mom said. Full-time. Good. She hates it. Most people do. We stood there for another moment before going our separate directions. 2 strangers connected by history. That night, I upgraded my security system again. Not because I was worried, because I could. 2 additional cameras, better night vision, facial recognition alerts. Overkill, maybe. Satisfying, definitely. Sarah came over that evening with wine. We sat on the porch, watching the sun disappear behind the trees. You going to reconcile with them someday? She asked. Maybe. Under conditions. What kind of conditions? Boundaries thick enough to build a house with. She laughed. That's fair. She gestured around the porch. You ever think about selling and getting something bigger? No. This place is perfect. 3 bedrooms for 1 person. 1 for me, 1 for my office, and 1 for guests. What kind of guests? The kind who respect boundaries and don't commit felonies. She raised her glass. So just me. Exactly. We clinked glasses. To surviving family, she said. To choosing family, I corrected. A year after the dinner that started everything, I received a letter. The return address was Karen's new apartment. I opened it slowly. Inside was a simple note. I'm sorry for everything. I don't expect forgiveness and I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know I'm trying to be better. One day at a time. The kids are happy. Amanda is happy. That matters. I hope you're happy too. You deserve it. I read it once. Then I placed it in a drawer. I didn't respond because something important had become clear over the past year. Apologies are easy. Change is harder. And peace is something you protect once you finally have it. That night, I checked the security camera footage before bed. Habit now. Neighbors walking dogs. Mail carrier. Kevin Jr. the raccoon trying to open my trash can again. No break-ins. No drama. No family demanding things I didn't want to give. Just quiet. Just boundaries. Just a 3-bedroom house that was finally completely mine.